Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Akin. I am your host, Olivia Akin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Randy Sutton. Randy is the founder of the Wounded Blue organization. The Wounded Blue organization works to break the stigma by making it easier for injured officers to seek and get the proper assistance they need. Randy is a retired lieutenant with an impressive career spanning over 30 years, including a decade in New Jersey and 24 years with the Las Vegas Metro Police Department. He brings a wealth of experience and expertise to his endeavors. In addition to his impactful work in law enforcement, Sutton is a prolific author known for shedding light on the realities of patrolling through numerous books he's written. His insights have garnered him a recognition in movies and TV shows, earning him the title of Voice of American Law Enforcement. You can find Randy by going to his website, thewoundedblue.org, or by emailing him at info@thewoundedblue.org or calling at 833-892-8255. Hello, Randy. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
No, I appreciate you having me. Thank you.
I am so excited. So to start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Randy Sutton?
Success is about impacting people, impacting lives in positive ways. And, I've spent a life in service, both as a law enforcement officer and in my present career, running a nationwide charity. But not only that, but I believe that getting the truth out about law enforcement is also part of my mission and also part of my service. So I fully believe that you cannot achieve success if you don't play a positive role in the lives of others.
I love that because I also think it's so important to keep in mind that life is bigger than ourselves, and decisions we make can affect others, can shape other individuals' lives in a positive or negative, depending on our actions. And it's really important to also say, what is the impact I want to make? So I really enjoyed the fact you bring that up. And as you said, you have had a long career in law enforcement, over 30 years, and you started in New Jersey, where I actually grew up living. So I love that. I saw that when we initially talked, and I was like, oh, okay, New Jersey, I see you. But what took you from your 30 years working in New Jersey and then Las Vegas, and then as you retired, what was the decision to pursue starting Wounded Blue? But also, what was your decision in even going into law enforcement?
So we're going to have to go way back in time now, way back in history. And I actually consider myself very, very lucky in that I always knew what my career was going to be. From the time I was a child, I knew that I was going to be a cop. And it runs in my family, by the way. My grandfather was a deputy sheriff who was shot in the line of duty. He survived it, but he was actually shot by a poacher of all things. And then my parents were both court reporters, so I grew up listening to cases about crime and murder, and I always knew what I was going to be, and actually achieved success at a very young age. When I say a success, I thought I was ready to be a cop at the ripe old age of 19. And now I look back, because I was the youngest police officer in the state of New Jersey at the time. They had just changed the age of majority from 21 to 18. And they didn't really think it through all the way because you could vote, you could drink, and you could become a cop. One thing you couldn't do, though, you couldn't buy ammunition because by federal law, you had to be 21. So here I am, I'm getting ready to go into the New Jersey State Police Academy, one of the toughest academies in the country. And I had to ask my mom to go buy my bullets for me. So it was there's a little chunk of reality for you, right? And I joined the Princeton Police Department, which is my hometown, And it was a great little department. It's 32 cops, but I got to tell you, I really wanted action, and I wasn't getting it there. So I needed to be challenged. And I halfway to retirement, I just said, I can't do this anymore, and went to Las Vegas. Had to start my career all over again as a patrol officer, and never looked back. It was probably the best decision I ever made, although it came with a lot of pain along the way too. You know, you can't really achieve all of your goals unless there's some pain along that journey, and that's one of the facts about human growth. And we'll talk a little bit more about that because that's a space I'm really involved in.
And we definitely will be diving into that shortly. The one question I have for you, following what you just responded, is you made the decision due to wanting to see more of that action to leave Princeton. Princeton is very close to Camden. A lot of individuals look at moving or getting a different job exposure or experience of what is the closest thing to where I'm living now. For you, why did you decide to go across the country to Las Vegas instead of some of those heavier, and I hate to put it this way, crime-ridden areas in even New Jersey, like Camden or Philadelphia, that had some of that action that you were looking for? And how was it going from an area that you grew up in, you know, that New Jersey feeling and community, to Las Vegas?
You know, I find that very interesting that you asked that question, Olivia. And I'll tell you how insightful it is. I've done probably 1,000 or more interviews, and no one has ever asked me that question. So I appreciate the fact that you did, because I actually looked at different areas. I looked at Trenton, I looked at Newark, I looked at Camden. But here's the difference. And while I was looking at all these different areas, I was actually in a conversation with a couple of FBI agents who had been stationed in Las Vegas. And they told me what a great department it was, and the growth that the city of Las Vegas was having, which was, you know, very accurate. And also its uniqueness there's no place like Las Vegas. And so it attracted me, quite honestly. Like, I'm gonna use that like a moth to a flame. It really truly was that. The lights of Las Vegas kind of drew me, but it was challenging because, listen, I started out being the youngest cop in the state of New Jersey. Now I go through the academy again, and I'm one of the oldest guys in the class. So that had its own challenges, and I knew that this was sink or swim. Mm-hmm. Right? It's easy to fail out of a police academy. They're very difficult. It's a major challenge, both physically and academically. So I had a lot riding. There was no going back for me. And so I was highly motivated to succeed when it came down to getting through this police academy. And I found it challenging, which, you know, that's the whole point of me going out to Las Vegas. I wanted to be challenged. That's how you grow. And so I dove right into it, and wound up being the valedictorian of the class and being the class speaker, which were both, you know, great honors for me. And I never looked back on that decision.
And I think one thing that it highlights in your answer as well is the fact that sometimes you have to go where you're feeling called, right? You really felt that connection with Las Vegas, but also that challenge you were looking for. And whether that be within your job, within stepping out of your own box and challenging yourself in a new environment and relocating and all the challenges that could bring. But it also sounded like from that answer and when you started out, that part of it was also the community that you were looking for and to get, whether it was within the police department and, you know, the camaraderie within the department itself, but also within the community and how the department worked with the community. And I think that's important. And one of the things you even talked about in identifying what success meant is the importance of understanding what it can really be like being a police officer. It's day in, day out, being on patrol, but also building that community within the department as well.
Yeah, no, that's a great insight as well. So I went from a 32 officer police department to the ninth largest police department in the country. And Las Vegas Metro PD is a unique department in that it is a combined city police department and county sheriffs. And that was very innovative back in the 70s when in 1972, the Clark County Sheriff's Department merged with the city of Las Vegas PD to create the Metropolitan Police. And that was very, very advanced thinking back in those days. And so when I came to Las Vegas and started all over again, it was a unique situation. But I want to point out about be careful what you wish for. Remember that adage? So I came to Vegas for more action. So I go through the police academy again. I go through field training again. And now I'm finally a full-fledged copper, and I'm assigned my first permanent unit, which was a patrol unit in the roughest section of town. And that was fine with me because that's what I was looking for anyway, right? Well, I'm still on probation. Now, as a cop for 10 years in the state of New Jersey, if I ever even drew my weapon, it would be a monumental occasion. So now I'm in Las Vegas, and I'm still on probation, and I got involved in a pursuit with a stolen vehicle with my partner and I was driving, and we get involved in a pursuit, and it's a back in those days, you chased them till you got them, right? So they crashed, and then they bailed out and started running. We're in a public housing complex, and I'm running after the driver, and I'm just right behind him, but I can't quite get him. And he goes around the corner of a building. I go around the corner of the building, and now he's waiting for me to ambush me. And I literally come around the corner, and there's this guy pointing a semi-automatic weapon at me, and he's got me. I mean, I'm running, and I had my gun in my hand because that's what you do. And as soon as I saw the threat, I opened fire on him, and I fired around, and it literally went right by his ear, and it hit the building behind him, which he was right next to, and a piece of stucco broke off from my bullet impact and hit him in the back of his head, and he thought he was shot, and he couldn't throw that gun down fast enough and surrender. Well, it turned out he was 15 years old. Mm-hmm. And so in that moment, when a 15-year-old is ready to kill you, it's that aha moment where you're not in Kansas anymore, Toto. Mm-hmm. And the reality of, okay, Randy, you asked for it. Well, you just got it. And that was an impactful moment for me. And the next 24 years saw a lot of action, a lot of danger, and from that, a lot of change within me.
For you, what was the biggest change that you saw within yourself and the biggest challenge that you had to overcome during that time?
Well, initially, it was loneliness. I had left my world, and I was very close to my family. And my mom and dad, I grew up in Princeton. My mom and dad lived there. That was my community, my hometown, your support system. And you don't realize how important your support system is until you don't have it anymore. And so when I came to Vegas, and I didn't know a soul, and I had to literally start my life all over again in very stressful circumstances of going through a police academy and knowing if I failed, I was screwed. You know what I mean? So that loneliness and leaving my family behind was a period of true personal growth for me as well, but extremely challenging, more so than I had anticipated. I didn't really give that a lot of thought, although I knew that I was going to miss my folks. But it really had a tremendous impact on me. So that was life changing.
And how do you think that shaped you? Because part of me is asking myself this question for personal reasons, because I am getting ready to move very far away from my family. I'm relocating to Juneau, Alaska for 2 years because
Wow.
yes. So when we talk far, New Jersey to Alaska, pretty far, almost as far as Las Vegas is almost there in distance, but it's one of those things everyone's going, "Are you ready? Are you ready?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's 2 years," because he serves. And I'm like, "It's 2 years, I'll be coming back." But everyone I think is also waiting to go, "Okay, you're really close to your family as well. It's gonna be different. It's gonna be challenging." And so when you don't know anyone, it could be that challenge of, okay, yes, now I'm in this new environment, but also adapting while you're, in your case, be going through training, all these things, or in my case, owning a business. Now you have to also rebuild your community that you had,
Yes.
and in the sense of not necessarily where you're living and you have to build the community, but those friendships, those people you can rely on, and all that. So it can definitely add some stress. And how did you handle that while going through such a difficult time?
Yeah. Well, I stayed very close to my friends and my family through, communications. Of course, at that time there was only the telephone, right? So now we have much greater technology to see each other and communicate with one another, which I think is important. I mean, I think that's something that would have made my transition easier. But I am still very close friends with the same people I was friends with back then. I'll actually be in New Jersey in a couple of weeks, and I go back every now. Unfortunately, everyone in my family is gone, but I still have some deep friendships with people that I've been friends with literally since I was a child. So maintaining those friendships is something that I found has been a stabilizing influence for me. I know that I can pick up that phone and pick up that conversation that I had just months ago with people that I know, I that share the love that I have for them, that they have for me as well.
And I think that's so important, is stay connected to those friends. Take the time out of your schedule too to check in, have those conversations, be
Yeah.
present. For you, I want to switch gears a little bit. As you were deciding to transition out of being a police officer, what made you make the decision to start your organization?
Well, I didn't make the decision. The decision was made for me. I had no intention of retiring when I did, but I've had some life changing moments through my career, and those life changing moments literally probably created the path for me. I live by an adage that during my most philosophical moments, I created a personal philosophy, if you will. And that philosophy is this: that you cannot choose your destiny, but you can create your legacy. And so that's been a philosophical approach that I have literally embraced for my life. And sometimes that that destiny is placed before you by circumstances. I've had, like I said, some life changing moments. One of them was saving the life of a baby who was shot in the face when she was just 1 month old. One of them was surviving a gunfight that I never should have survived if you looked at all of the facets. And so that created a new who I am, because when you experience those type of traumas and those type of experiences, if you allow it, it will create personal growth in ways that you never anticipated. But my fate was chosen when I suffered a stroke in my police car. And that's what ended my police career. I had no intention of retiring when I did, but I had the most frightening experience of my life. I was a lieutenant, and I never tested for a higher rank than lieutenant because that's the last rank you can actually be a cop. And otherwise, you're an administrator. So I had my entire lieutenant's career on the graveyard shift, which in Vegas, that's where the action is. So I was on patrol with a young patrol officer. Every time I was the watch commander, which was the highest ranking officer on the street, I would take a young cop with me so I could get to know my people. So this particular night, it was 2:30 in the morning. We're driving down Las Vegas Boulevard, the famous strip. And I literally felt my brain slowing down as I'm talking to this young man. And I started talking slower like this. And I realized I had no control over it. And I knew instantly that I was having a stroke. I stopped the police car and I said to him, "Get me medical, I'm having a stroke." And got out of the car to go around to the passenger side in case he needed to get me to the hospital, and started speaking gibberish. And I had no control over it. And I knew I was speaking gibberish. And what I was trying to say was not coming out of my mouth. And I got to tell you, it was the most frightening moment of my life. And then I lost the ability to speak and the ability to move, and I crumpled to the pavement. And I can tell you this with all honesty, I wasn't afraid of dying. In fact, I was actually praying for death because I didn't want to be like that the rest of my life. And once again, the angel that's been on my shoulder for my entire career was with me again that night. And the blood clot went through my brain and left a little bit of damage, but certainly not what it could have. And I survived it, but it ended my police career. Now, I should mention that 3 weeks before that, my mother died in my arms. And 2 months before that, I was involved in another fatal shooting. And I say another because that gives you the indication that there were more. So I had a lot of stress going on in my life, which didn't help. But then while I'm in the hospital and I'm feeling pretty good, the doctor comes in, he says, "How are you feeling, Randy?" I said, "I feel pretty good." He says, "I'm glad to hear that, but we found that you have a severe heart condition, which is what killed my mother 3 weeks before." And he says, "I don't want you to be under any false impression that anything we did here is going to give you a longer lifespan. You need to prepare yourself for your own mortality." And that is not anything that I intended to hear. Mm-hmm. And it was a moment of real clarity that I had survived something, but that survival could be short-lived. And talk about getting slapped in the face with reality. It really created within me, all right, Randy, then what are you going to do with the rest of your life? This is terrible loss. I lost my mother. I'm under investigation for a shooting. I've now lost the career that I have loved and identified with my entire adult life. Now what? And so I was going through these mental machinations and all this emotional upheaval. And I happened to be watching. Now, I'd already written 3 books by then. So I was a published author, and I knew that whatever my legacy was going to be, it was going to be around the written word. And I happened to be watching television, and I saw an interview with a man named Frank Shankwitz. Does that name ring a bell to you?
Mm-hmm. But
he's the man who created the Make-A-Wish Foundation. Mm-hmm. And very few people know that the man who created Make-A-Wish was an Arizona State Trooper. And literally what he did, touched the lives of millions and millions of people worldwide. And I listened to his story. He was doing an interview about himself. And I was like on the edge of my seat like this. And I knew it was like the proverbial light bulb went off in my head. And I thought to myself, that's it. I want to talk to people like him, people who have changed the world through kindness and compassion. And I want to talk to them about who it was in their life that gave them that drive. And so I reached out to Frank Shankwitz and I said, hey, man, here's who I am. I want to interview you for my new book. And the book is called The Power of Legacy, Personal Heroes of America's Most Inspiring People. And he was my first interview. And that interview led not only to a close personal friendship that lasted till the day he died, but he also became the first board member when I decided to create the Wounded Blue. And his mentorship and guidance and friendship literally changed my life. In fact, when the New Jersey comes out in me and I have my gold chain out and I have my father's gold wedding ring, my mother's heart, and I have Frank Shankwitz's St. Christopher medal on my chain. And so I carry them around with me to remind me about the impact that they had. Frank's impact was, he was a true American hero. In fact, here's the irony, or not irony, I guess is the wrong word, but there was a movie produced about him called Wishman, which is available now on Amazon and other streaming services. And I got to be in the movie. So here I am playing in a movie about my friend and my mentor, Wishman. So that destiny led to my creation of the Wounded Blue, because what happened after I had the stroke, my own department turned its back on me and just said, we're not paying your medical bills. We're not giving you your benefits. Have a nice life. And I was, wait a minute. What are you talking about? You have to. It's the law. I gave you 24 years of my life. I almost gave my life on more than one occasion. What do you mean you're not paying my medical bills? You have to. And they said, yeah, well, make us. And I got to tell you, it was one of the most devastating times of my life. Here, the same department that I gave 24 years of my life to just turned its back on me. And they spent tens of thousands of taxpayers' dollars to fight me, knowing they had to pay for my benefits. They had to pay for my medical bills. Bill collectors are knocking on my door. And it was a very lonely place to be, Olivia. And it was a very painful time. And I beat them as they knew I would, but I found out a very, very harsh reality. They knew that it would take well over a year for me to beat them in court. And they were betting on the fact that I would die and they wouldn't have to pay. Now, that happened to me. I survived, but it was a terrible emotional upheaval. But because of my visibility in the law enforcement community, from being on the TV show Cops and in movies and writing books and being a police trainer, suddenly cops start reaching out to me. This is about the time Facebook became a big deal. And cops started reaching out to me, not because I could do anything, but simply because I was visible to them. Randy, I know you don't know me, but I was shot in the line of duty. My chief never even visited me in the hospital. They've thrown me away. They're not even paying my medical bills. Randy, and it's all from different states, from different cops, not because I could do anything, but only because out of desperation, they were reaching out to a face that they recognized. And I thought to myself, wait a minute. There has to be a resource for these men and women, because everyone ends the same way. I feel forgotten. I feel alone. I feel abandoned. And then the worst, I wish I never even lived that night. And so I realized that this is a national problem, and there was no national resource. Well, there is now, and that is the Wounded Blue. And we are the National Assistance and Support Organization for injured and disabled officers. And we've helped more than 14,000 in the last 5 years. And you can see my shirt. I don't know if you can read it, but it says never forgotten, never alone. And that's who we are.
And I think it also shows through that story, there's a few facets I want to highlight. One, that when shit hits the fan, when life turns, you really have this realization moment of what I perceived and the community I thought I had. Do they really show up? And how do they show up? And in difficult times, you learn a lot about an individual's character and how they will handle a situation if they don't show up, or if they go, okay, well, come fight us, come work to get what you actually deserve, because it'll make it harder for you. And are you willing to put up the fight? And a lot of times, you know, or it could be an organization, it could be whatever. They go, you're not going to really fight. We're going to wear you down until you get to the point where you go, it's not worth it. Or like you said,
Right.
it's something worse happens and now you can no longer fight. But what they weren't expecting, especially in your situation, you were like, oh no, we're about to fight and you're going to see, we're going to get the conclusion. But it also, through the avenue of all those police officers reaching out, it's a sense of when an individual's going through something, they need to know someone relates to them and can actually
Yes.
understand what they're going through. And a lot of times we go through things, and when you are the outlier and in a life situation like a first responder, in the military, we could even take it professional sports, there's only so many people that actually know what it's like to be in that environment. And at the end of the day, whether we like it or not, there's only so many people. Civilians don't always know firsthand, unless you've lived that experience, what it is like. You
Right.
can't, the other aspect of it is